Hello, welcome to Art and Leisure. Recently, the Department of Creative Arts, University of Lagos, had a week-long event. That's what we're about to show you on Art and Leisure today. So, recline your cushion and keep a cup of juice by your side because we're going to give you value for your time. All right, let's start from the very first day when Professor Borgatti had a special session with the students and their lecturers. What did she talk about? Traditional textiles and contemporary art. My name is Chioma Okpara. Stick around for a bumper package. Professor Borgatti is in Nigeria on a Fulbright Scholar program. She's an art historian. Her lecture was on how traditional textiles have inspired many contemporary artists in their work.
I chose to combine traditional textiles and contemporary art because traditional textiles are what I am particularly interested in, or traditional art is what I am particularly interested in, but I know that my colleagues and students here are more interested in contemporary art. So it was a way for me to marry those two interests. I learned a great deal about contemporary art as I put this lecture together initially, and I'm hoping that my students and colleagues will develop a new appreciation for some of the traditional things that I showed.
She buttressed her point by showing works done by different African artists.
One of the things Yinka Shonibari has said that I've read is that he found his reason for being as an artist when one of his tutors asked him the question when, because he was doing something that was influenced by Russian futurism. This is an art school in England. And so he was asked the question, when are you going to make something authentically African? Well, what is inauthentic about something created, in terms of its Africanness, of something made by an African artist, or an artist who is of African descent? But he realized at that point that he needed to one, he did not want to be forever considered as a black artist who did not make art about black things. But at the same time, he did not want to make things that were classified necessarily as, quote, black art. And so the idea of questioning identity became central to his work at that time. And then his own life has taken particular directions because of things that he could not have predicted, which have also influenced the way his work has developed over time. Nigerian artists distinguish themselves not only by what they make and the materials they use, whatever they happen to be, whether they're, bottle caps or plastic bottles, or traditional fabrics, but and not just Nigerian artists, but African artists across the continent, but also by the statements they're making. And it's those statements, as Victor Ekpuk said, which have a local meaning on the one hand, but also have a much more global meaning.
They listened with rapt attention, but also had time to ask questions. Obviously, they're not leaving the lecture room the same way they came.
The most important thing I learned was the origin of African traditional wears and how far they've gone all over the world.
I was quite informed. There were some places, some names I've never heard before. So through this lecture, I can also go and do my own research on those names.
I learned the transitions from traditional African fabric to contemporary art, and I learned how African artists were representing Africa in a very good way.
Different artists have begun to incorporate traditional designs and motifs into their present-day artworks.
Professor Borgatti is an art lecturer. She's on the senior scholars list in America. She's researched on masquerades in textile form. She believes that more Nigerian artists will distinguish themselves if they worked with local materials found around them. Welcome back. What we call waste is not really waste in the real sense of it. Take for instance, discarded fabrics from a tailor's workshop an artist uses it to do a beautiful work of art that costs an arm and a leg. In a nutshell, we've got everything in Nigeria. Everything. All right, that takes us to day 2 when Dr. Emmanuel Spiesse talked about art markets in Lagos. Stay. Dr. Emmanuel Spiesse is from France. As a guest lecturer, her focus was on art markets in Lagos.
Sometimes gallerists and collectors are helping a lot artists, and sometimes they seem to be a bit conservative. So I tried today to show that the galleries is not often able, is not sometimes able to show what all the artists are producing.
It is a fact that many art collectors collect known names, but young artists can still sell their works with the encouragement of their mentors.
Some of our artists were helped by, have helped a lot of younger artists. Ellen Atsui, in 2001, has exhibited many of his students for the exhibition New Energy, and he was showing to Nigerian public conceptual art. Also important to notice is that as young artists doesn't have too much money to exhibit in Nikoi and in VI, it's very important to be helped by association.
Having taken a good look at artist-gallery relationship, can Dr. Spiesse say that artists get remuneration commensurate with their creativity?
The point of view of the artist, that sometimes is very happy from what he can get from the gallery, sometimes is not happy because he thinks that the gallery is maybe hiding some money. But if I interview gallerists, they always say that they are a fixed price for each artist. So they keep just one part of the price, of the full price, and they give money enough to the artist. So the artist has his point of view, the galleries has his point of view.
For 2 days, 2 scholars of international repute have spent time with students and artists at the instance of the Creative Arts Department of the University of Lagos.
Well, the topics were largely chosen by the speakers themselves, and these are things they've worked on for several years in their career as scholars, as art scholars. But in many ways, it connects to what they learn at the University of Lagos. We do not teach students to become just artisans. We want them to be intellectual in their approach to art making.
The first day was interesting for the students. Did they learn anything new today?
I learned basically that artists, as a contemporary artist, you have to invest in your intellectual, in the intellectual aspect of your practice.
What I was able to pick up is mostly that when I want to sell something I produce, at the end of the day, I should not just rush it. I should have a little bit of patience. Art is not only about when you produce it, about selling. So I should learn how to speak about my work.
Keep putting my art out, keep adding more value to my art, and with proper promotion, with proper hype, with proper improvements in each work I do, I guess the financial rewards or the critical acclaim I'm looking for in my art will also come with it.
Dr. Emmanuel Spiesse says what exists between artists and galleries is a symbiotic relationship. She encourages artists to remain creative. Nice to have you back. What is known today as the Department of Creative Arts started as a Center for Cultural Studies, and one of its pioneer staff, Professor Dele Jegede, turned 70 recently. The Society of Nigerian Artists wrote out the drums, and his department, yes, the Department of Creative Arts, provided the venue for a conference in his honor. Take a look. Professor Dele Jegede was born 70 years ago in Ikere Ekiti, Ekiti State. He graduated with a first class in fine arts from Ahmadu Bello University 42 years ago.
Way back then, parents were not directly opposed to my doing art, but they were concerned about where that would lead me. So art was something that people would sympathize with you over, because the ideal thing is that you should have gone into other areas, presumably areas that were considered more lucrative.
He stuck to his guns and went ahead to study art history for master's and doctoral degrees in Indiana University. Professor Jegede began his career as a cartoonist and painter.
It was his cartoons that made him a household name in Nigeria, especially between 1975 and 1987, with the adventures of his colleague Dele and colleague Borg in the Sunday Times of Nigeria.
In 1977, he joined the Center for Cultural Studies of the University of Lagos. He organized cultural activities in conjunction with the Second World and Black Festival of Arts and Culture, otherwise known as Festac 77. He left in 1992 as the director of the center.
When I then became director in 1992, I then proposed that the certificate program should go from being a certificate program to proposing a Bachelor of Arts degree program in theater arts, music and visual arts, and that this would then lead students eventually to obtaining the PhD. So we can say that Professor Dele Jegede germinated the seed of the program in creative arts by first establishing that Center for Cultural Studies. Also, as the director of the Center for Cultural Studies, he had a lot of innovations. He introduced the lunch hour seminars, bringing in different scholars. He also had an international conference to which all of us presented papers. And so he really gave the then Center for Cultural Studies the academic content of the department. He gave it a lot more boost.
This conference, with a theme, Introspection, Dele Jegede at 70, was organized by the Society of Nigerian Artists. As a keynote speaker, Professor Ola Oloide took a good look at his career.
Jegede's paintings with intact revolutionary images are a lamentation over the country is so much lost, but without really receiving compensatory or rewarding returns. As a defender of the masses, he uses his paintings to embrocate the aching parts of the society.
Of particular interest to Professor Jacob Jari is his change in ideology.
Earlier on, he was very, very upset about doing things that were traditional in nature. In fact, he himself said he was an artist of now, and that he was always going to do things of now, and that he did not belong to the past. As a matter of fact, he said the past belonged to the museologists, using his term. But I find that his recent works have gone back to the past. As a matter of fact, he does so many things about ancestral spirits now. And so I'm wondering, he's going to his immigration to the United States of America. That was how I ended my paper. Was it actually a blessing to Nigeria or a curse? Because I think that he has changed in ideology, and I don't know where he fits in now.
Professor Dele Jegede has been an artist for more than 4 decades. His contributions to the development of contemporary Nigerian art are many.
His position is clearly stated and pioneering efforts in so many ways. He pioneered the finding, the institution of the National Art Gallery. And then when he left Nigeria, he never abandoned the country and always came home to evaluate what we are doing, the kind of things we are doing, and why a new paradigm once in a while has to be approached in terms of art criticism especially.
26 years ago, he was elected the president of the Society of Nigerian Artists. During his 3-year tenure, he led a campaign for the establishment of the National Gallery of Art.
All this while we used to think it is WIPO, Degree 83, cultural policy. But today I was made to understand that it was people like Professor Jegede that were in the forefront of establishing the National Gallery of Art.
This conference was attended by lecturers, artists, students, family, and friends. Welcome back. That's not all on Professor Dele Jegede. Art and Leisure attended a confab and an exhibition in his honor. Those took place at Yaba College of Technology. Let's see how it went. Different generations are represented here. Some are artists, some are collectors, and students are also here. They took turns to ask questions and also talk about the man, Professor Dele Jegede.
Here at the Yaba College of Technology, I was a student, and he happened to be an adjunct lecturer. He comes from the University of Lagos to teach us, live drawing and all that. From there, I started developing interest in drawing. I remember when I wanted to write, I wanted to have an exhibition in 1989. He said I should go and write my statement. And I wrote that statement. I was already a graduate. And when I wrote the statement, I said, Kunle, your English is bad. And he started underlining it, and they started correcting me. I said, wow. Then when I saw myself, I said, wow, I need to, bulk up. From there, I went back to school to start learning some of those things that I failed to learn while I was growing up.
An exhibition of contemporary works was one of the high points of this celebration.
Initially, we toyed with the idea of exhibiting only his contemporaries at ABU, where he made a first class. But as the exhibition grew wings, a lot of people wanted to be part of the celebration owing to his iconic status.
You have works from different artists, and Dele Jegede himself, there's one of his works here, a painting I did, I guess, in 1998.
Professor Dele Jegede is an icon whom many say deserves to be celebrated.
He's an icon of our time. His contributions to the SNA and to art in general in Nigeria remain almost unparalleled. As an educationist, he's done extremely well. A professor of art, a lot of people have gone through him. He's tutored a lot of people, some of the greats that you see on today. He's been partly responsible for their careers. As an artist, he's a very strong painter. He's exhibited all over the world. As an art administrator, he's been the past president of Society of Nigerian Artists. So I think the reasons are really obvious.
He's a very prolific painter, as well as an insightful cartoonist. Especially during the time he was in Nigeria, around 1970 and 1980s. He is also a very respected scholar whose erudition in art history, both African artistry and African black artistry, is celebrated, all over the world.
For 2 days, stakeholders in the Nigerian visual arts community focused their attention on Professor Dele Jegede. How does he feel about all the accolades?
I feel blessed, I feel lucky, and I feel reinvigorated. It is something to celebrate, and it's good to have people to celebrate with. So I feel extremely thankful.
Having gone round to look at the works on display, he gives his impression.
They are quite impressive in the diversity, that they manifest. That's the significant thing about that. It is, in fact, it turned out to be a much greater idea than having to have a show of my works alone.
He advises young artists on how to evolve artistically.
If you are interested in art, you continue to explore, but you really would make progress when you subject your own intuition to some higher kind of, learning.
The Society of Nigerian Artists is 52 years old. It is the professional body for all practicing visual artists in the country. The group put this event together.
It's been a season of serious hard work, planning meetings. I think we convened the first meeting sometimes in March, and since then we've been having series of meetings.
What qualifies one to be celebrated this way?
Turning 70 does not necessitate a celebration. What is important is celebrating somebody who has legacies that is worthy of emulation.
Your contributions to the visual arts as it is, what you've done, whether your studio practice or as an academician, and of course your contributions to society and your contributions to making art not only something of decorative value, but something that can affect and change society positively.
Who is next to be honored?
Mr. Kolade Oshinowo, and incidentally, they're very bosom friends.
Wow, things are looking up for the visual arts subsector. Art appreciation is growing and we are happy. All right, from Yoruba Tech, let's go back to Unilag for an event tagged Homecoming and Award Ceremony. Very colorful. Stay. They were much younger when they became members of staff of the Center for Cultural Studies in 1975. The comedians mimicked their lecturers. There were other performances. Awards were given in different categories. 10 persons were given awards in recognition of their valuable contribution to the department. Award for long service and dedication to duty went to Mr. Peju Layiwola. Omobayemi Shilon and Dr. Daniel Ulukoya received the Excellence Award. 52 persons received awards in the Honorable Mention category. 4 journalists also received an award each. It was exciting for me to be recognized for my active support for the Department of Creative Arts, University of Lagos. A climax came when the fingerprints of a visual arts icon was documented.
I thank you all. I thank the Faculty of Arts for doing this for me, for this award. It is important that we here in Nigeria learn to create our own heroes. What you have done today is to make me a hero. I used to know that actors in Hollywood would have their food canned in some kind of material, but I never knew that someday my hands will be cast in the material that is gold.
The students watched with keen interest as the awards were given. It will be their turn someday. In the near future, this department will become a faculty. Welcome back. I enjoyed every bit of that event. The award they gave to me came as a pleasant surprise. I'm still basking in the euphoria. It is on record that the Department of Creative Arts, University of Lagos, had her first female acting head of department after about 38-40 years. Let me tell you more about this woman. Dr. Peju Layiwola holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Metal Art and Design from the University of Benin. Master's and doctoral degrees in art history were obtained from the University of Ibadan. She has received many awards, grants, and attended conferences in different parts of the world. She served as facilitator at several art workshops. She has held several group and solo exhibitions, both locally and internationally. 25 publications are credited to her. For 2 years, Dr. Peju Layiwola, who teaches art history, was the acting head of the Department of Creative Arts, University of Lagos. At this one-week event, organized to mark the end of her tenure, she was described this way.
I just described her briefly as a tsunami, because she's a very focused and very hard-working lady, and she's been able to take the Department of Creative Arts from where it was to really elevate things. And also to her credit, is the movement of the final movement of the visual arts section of the department into the new buildings of the Department of Creative Arts.
This department has grown to this height. Is just a continuation of what someone has done for the Hamatan workshop. Now, put your hands together for Tsunami.
This wife, mother, and career woman is a pacesetter. She's the first female to assume the position of an acting head of the Department of Creative Arts, University of Lagos.
It has been a wonderful experience, having been given the opportunity of shaping minds and serving. I mean, anytime there's a call for service, it's always a great opportunity to do what you can do. But I think that it's largely not about what I've done, about what God has allowed me to do during this 2-year period, but it has also been a collaborative effort of my colleagues at the department and the non-teaching staff as well. And I think that the students have been very appreciative of all that we've done.
Many describe her as hardworking, unassuming, and cerebral. Her mother, Mrs. Elizabeth Olowu, is the first female broadcaster in Benin. Well done, Dr. Peju Layiwola. She's actually an associate professor. More grace to Rebel. We'll always celebrate you. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching the program today. You have so many episodes you can watch online. Just visit www.artandleisure.com.ng. Please. Always leave a comment afterwards. My name is Chioma Okpara. Same time, same station. Next week, there'll be something fresh for you by God's grace. Until then, love yourself, love Nigeria.